All right, gang. Hope all is well. This is Lewis and another day at the office. Anyone wanting any questions, answering, just email, just put them in the chat box on the screen. Usually it takes 5-10 minutes for people to start joining the chat. So usually what I tend to do is answer a few YouTube questions if there's any knocking around. So yeah, so if you're watching and you want to ask a question, please do so in the chat box. I'm just going to answer some YouTube questions. Let's have a look what we're doing. Yeah, if you're watching this and it's a replay, then it might be a good idea to skip forward a few minutes while people start joining the chat. It's 8:30 in the UK, so, and in America, yeah, afternoonish. So we should get a few people join us tonight, and it's a Wednesday, so you know, everyone knows no one does anything on a Wednesday. All right, what we got here? My computer's so ridiculously slow this morning. Jeez. This evening. Keep asking questions, gang. Can't start until questions come in. Everyone's got a question. So someone's written a comment on visual snow. My mind was blown when you mentioned depersonalization, derealization. I've had severe chronic pain for 1.5 years, and out of desperation, I tried vaping marijuana for the first time for the first time ever, I think. Wow. And I accidentally but severely overdosed, which gave me depersonalization, derealization disorder, along with visual snort and some other bad vision problems. So I guess my first question is, do you happen to have any suggestions on how to recover from DPDR? It's absolutely horrific. Well, the first thing is I have a film on derealization, depersonalization. It's 1.5 hours long. You need to search for it on my YouTube channel. If you search in Lewis Rowlands derealization deep dive on YouTube, then you'll get the film. It's a 1.5 hours long. The suggestions to recover in there, I talk about the nutritional balancing program. It's very in depth, too much for me to kind of talk about really on this live chat, but you can definitely overcome derealization. From our experience, it's made up of multiple different layers ranging from candida to copper, arsenic, lead, parasites, upwards moving energy, which is another term for ungroundedness, basically, and a few other things. So I would check that out. Obviously, if you would like to start a nutritional balancing program, just send me an email, lewis@deephealingspace.com. And we will be able to get you on the right track. All right, so another one here, which is about visual snow, but it's on a different video. Why is my VS worse in the morning? Well, it's a really long question. Why is my visual snow worse in the morning? I think I got VS by worrying. I know I didn't have it since I was a kid, because when I wake up, I have huge static unless I get up. I don't have brain damage. Copper intoxication. You probably do have copper intoxication, and you know, never drank alcohol, never smoked. Usually, a lot of people get brought up on a Western diet. Sorry, it's a really long question. So basically, this person's got visual snow. He's quite young. He's saying that he hasn't got copper intoxication. I disagree. Probably, if you had a hair analysis test, you probably would have it. The reason why visual snow is probably worse in the morning is probably because your adrenal glands are quite weak for whatever reason. I know that you're young, but you still could have adrenal problems. You're probably going to have a lot of toxins passed down by your mother from birth. And you probably got brought up on absolute rubbish, like most 14-year-olds do. So sorry to hear about that. I understand you're 14. So unless you can get your parents involved, paying for a nutritional balancing program is going to be difficult. If you want to email me, we have funds available for young people like you, potentially to help you, or I will send you through the program for free. But ideally, we would want you to do a nutritional balancing program. But as a 14-year-old, I wouldn't assume that you would have the money to do it. I would probably say to talk to your parents. If I started getting ill at 14, and one of the things that I didn't do was I didn't speak to my parents properly. And it's important just to tell them that you're fine, but there's some sort of physical issue at work here. And also realize that you probably, I mean, for you to figure out you got visual snow at 14 is impressive. Probably if you was to go to a doctor's, you know, you might get odd kind of answers. It might be a good idea to get your parents maybe to watch this, and maybe watch another video of mine. Maybe the derealization film that I just talked about in the last question would probably be pretty useful. But really, parents need to realize that, you know, there's some specific conditions, especially what you've got, that doctors are unaware of. And it's one of the reasons why I do this YouTube channel. If doctors were aware of this, I wouldn't deal with this channel. I wouldn't need to. So I've suffered from it, and it definitely can be sorted out. But well done for, you know, being so young and making an effort to move forwards. All right, so this question's from a Q&A on food sensitivity. The first 5 minutes of this video saw enlightening. I was eating chocolate like nothing else as a child, suffered from childhood migraine since 5, finally found the reason for it thanks to nutritional balancing, but still unsure how I became so copper toxic so early in life. I think people need to realize that copper is a very important mineral in the body, very important. And it's quite easy out of balance when it comes to copper. Whenever you get stressed, you release zinc, for example. Zinc and copper work together as twins, and basically if you release a lot of zinc, then copper becomes unbalanced because the copper and zinc level is out of balance. So copper tends to accumulate. Copper toxicity is often passed down from birth, but generally it's stress that causes this unbalance, and it causes, you know, a balanced copper that's balanced out with all the minerals around it. And when you're stressed, zinc is released along with other minerals, and it's quite a complex situation, and copper becomes unbalanced and therefore toxic. So that's probably a better way of understanding it. You know, everyone's like, where's all this copper come from? Where's all this copper come from? It's like, no, actually, you know, the better way to look at it is you're so stressed and you're releasing main copper antagonists like zinc, and, you know, copper increases. Another common problem is people's livers toxic, you know, and there's a few enzymes in the liver that bind to copper. When the liver's toxic, the enzymes stop being produced properly, and these enzymes are meant to bind to copper. So when copper's not getting bound to move from the system, you get copper imbalance. That's another good way of looking at it. So try not to look at it as from a certain place necessarily. It's more an imbalance caused by Western factors these days. All right, let's see if we've got any questions. Cool, questions are coming in. That's cool. This one is another live. No, this was from podcast. So I was doing the exact same as Dr. Wilson advocates prior to finding the nutritional balancing program. I eat cooked vegetables, some nuts, and grass-fed organic meat/fish. And as for the push-down exercise, I'm very familiar, and I've already experienced true awakening through this type of meditation to get through hard life experiences. I was also drawn to infrared saunas within the last 3 months. I was researching coffee enemas most recently. It's like all the components of the program are there, and I had no clue I was actually doing the program. I talked to Joe, and he explained that, yes, this is actually the complete program and just due to that time in alignment with most other things. Yeah, I've actually noticed a few people, even some of my friends who kind of do the same as nutritional balancing, and they've just found out through their own journey. Nutritional balancing is the truth, and it doesn't surprise me if people find it naturally by themselves. You know, people tend to find out that fruit, for example, is just too sugary these days, so they cut it out of the system. I've met a couple of people. You know, I was even in a relationship with someone who was basically doing the nutritional balancing diet. I was like, oh my god, like how on earth have you managed to figure out this? And you know, she had various problems, and she basically was eating very, very similar to nutritional balancing. I was like, wow, that's astounding. Another one of my close mates is the same. It's the truth, and you know, God is working on everyone else's lives as much as the nutritional balancing people. And when you do things like fruitarianism or veganism and you get sick, then you're gonna question things, and that questioning leads to answers. So I'm really glad that you've found that. That weren't really an answer that weren't really a question that got answered, but I'll pop down the link anyway. All right, cool. Let's move back to the Q&A. Not many people watching today. There were quite a lot of people watching last time. So again, if you have got any questions, then just just ask them in the chat box. All right, let's go. Hi, keto diet, question mark. I imagine you're asking me what I think of the ketogenic diet. So we don't actually recommend the keto diet in nutritional balancing. Dr. Wilson has an article on it. I'll just get it up quickly just to run through the main issues we find with the ketogenic diet. Although, you know, I've got to admit, it's people are definitely on the right tracks in many levels. You know, same with a few people. Weston Price was on a you know, a decent diet. So yeah, the ketogenic or keto diet consists of a high-fat diet with very low carbohydrates and no sugars. It may also include chemicalized food and alcohol, as one begins to burn fats and oils almost exclusively for fuel. The body produces chemicals called ketone bodies, hence the name. So, but we find that the ketogenic diet stops development. Development is basically uncovering the human's genetic human genetic potential. In order to turn on certain genes, you need a high nutrition that's precise in certain ways. The ketogenic diet, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to do that. And so that would be a definite turn off to me. Dr. Wilson's also mentioned it's a nutritionally deficient diet. It doesn't include enough cooked vegetables. We find people today are really malnourished and nutritionally deficient, even if they're eating organic food, unfortunately. So cooked vegetables in large quantities is very, very much needed. It provides hundreds of phytonutrients, hundreds of chemicals that we need, vitamins. Also, it's a very unbalanced diet. It contains too much fat and oil, which is definitely not good for certain people, especially if you're like an extreme slow oxidizer. That would make you feel horrendous. Also, the diet is full of acid-forming foods. So, you know, a lot of people these days realize that alkaline food is very important because we generally have acidic bodies these days. So the ketogenic diet is unfortunately not recommended. However, you've got to give props to certain diets. It was kind of on the right path. But yeah, hope that's answered your question. I want to ask if I can do oil pulling. Oil pulling is not recommended really. It's not too bad, I don't think, but let me see what's been written about oil pulling. Yeah, it's an Ayurvedic method of detoxification. As I said, it's not very harmful. We don't recommend it. It's a little bit like castor oil packs. It's just not very powerful. It's, you know, you can do it, but you're probably not going to get major results that's really going to cause some form of deep healing. So that's all I can say really on that. How is manganese detox different from copper symptom wise? I didn't feel much with high copper, but really have the blues in twitching manganese detox. Well, I think it's hard sometimes to distinguish between the two. I think one important point is that when a lot of people are detoxing copper, they'll tend to detox manganese as well on some level. For anyone who wants to know a little bit about manganese, manganese is called the mad mineral. You know, there's something called manganese madness because when manganese becomes toxic in people, it tends to turn people mad. You know, a good example is the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. When they used to make top hats, you know, back in the day, they used to line the hats with manganese and it would get into the people's system and cause this madness feeling. I remember when I got manganese toxicity, and the difference between manganese, not manganese, when I did manganese detox, is that, yeah, I mean, you do feel mad. It's hard to explain. It's a little bit like combining being poisoned with tripping on LSD, but without the visual effects. It's really bizarre. Like, you just, 1 minute you're kind of warping in reality a little bit, and you just feel like you're going insane. There's just like, yeah, I can't explain it. It's like tripping out on some sort of psychedelic, but you're not seeing any visuals. It's the most bizarre thing ever. You know, if you're going for a manganese detox, I would recommend kind of following a similar protocol to copper elimination. So weirdly enough, I've done this being basically copper elimination week this week on YouTube. So I've done a couple of videos on copper elimination. Sure, check them out. But yeah, if you get manganese detox, you will figure out pretty quick usually that it's manganese, because you do genuinely feel quite mad. It's quite bizarre, like a mad hatter. Weird. Hi there. I'm curious, after all these years on nutritional balancing, how often do you do coffee enemas and saunas now that you're now that you are in a healthier state? Not as often, what I would imagine. No, I still do them every day. You know, I don't do nutritional balancing. I still do nutritional balancing to improve my health, and I will tell you now, I've still got some work to do on my health compared to where I was. It's absolute night and day. I'm way more healthier now than what I was 8 years ago. 8 years, I was just an absolute disaster. But I don't know. I know that you've been a part of the community a little bit, because I recognise your name. You know, there's such a thing as development, and in nutritional balancing, you can not only heal, but you can heal to such an extent where you start developing the human body, and you start getting certain abilities like telepathy and certain guidance, and you become more of a whole integral person. You know what I mean? You know, think of great masters like Jesus Christ, for example. That's kind of the aim that we're getting to. So why would I slow down that process? You know, to me, that becomes a mission or a purpose in my life to keep doing that. And I'll keep doing saunas and coffee enemas every day just to keep myself on the path of development to heal more. And until Dr. Wilson tells me that I don't need to do them, really, but it's probably going to be a while until I get to that stage. So yeah, I still do everything every day. So I am just starting off on the program with Lyme disease for 3 years. I am on a herbal protocol and taking lots of supplements. What is your opinion on transition to the program with the herbs? So yeah, we don't recommend herbs too much. I think the main issue that Dr. Wilson's found is that a lot of herbs tend to have some toxicity in them. So we tend to stay away from them in general. I've never really seen anyone go through deep detox and transformation using herbal remedy. If I was you, I would just switch straight away to the nutrition balancing program. It's not as if you've been on various medications where you're going to get massive withdrawal reactions. You know, the good thing about switching from herbal protocol is that you're probably not going to have any withdrawals or anything like that. So, you know, just get yourself straight onto a nutritional balancing program, and that'd be good. I like slowly transition off the herbs. I feel if I totally go off all my current herbs, I will totally crash. Well, if the herbs are stimulating your adrenal glands, then you know it's better to get off the herbs quicker than later, because you're just wearing out the adrenal glands, and you're causing yourself more time to heal in the long run. You know, if it's a real, I mean, I don't know what herbs you're on, and I wouldn't want to give you any advice on a live chat like this, because I would have to see your full program. But in general, you know, the more that you stimulate the adrenal glands, the more healing that you got to do on it. So, you know, I would try and get off whatever you're on fairly quick in general. Hey, how can I know if my mental issues are even due to anything mineral/diet related? After all, a nutritional balancing program is a huge commitment. If one is physically extremely healthy but got DPDR, is it even possible for there to be any connection to diet? If you find me someone who's extremely healthy, please send them to me, because I haven't found that person yet, apart from a few people who've done the nutritional balancing program for about 15 years. Don't lie to yourself thinking that people are healthy. Believe me, people's bodies are in bad condition these days, even though people can come across as though they've been healthy. If you've got derealization and depersonalization, it's a real big physical thing. That it's the brain has disconnected from reality. I can't do that, if that makes sense. My brain is working well, and if I cannot mentally force my mind to make that physical detachment. I cannot do it. It's impossible. You know, the only way it happens is if I'm toxic, or you know, I've got candida overload or something physical. I personally believe derealization and depersonalization is a very, very physical thing. The only way that it could be mental is if people think that they're really stupid, and that's gone on for years and years and years. But I haven't found any person like that yet. But that's the only thing that could actually probably do it. Everything else is quite physical. It really, really is. You'll be surprised, and I can guarantee you now that if you was to get a hair mineral analysis test, there will be some imbalances that's probably related to derealization. So, and compared to other, I mean, is it a huge commitment? You know, I charge around £160 depending on the situation and age and all that sort of stuff. You know, if you go to someone else, they're probably going to charge way more than that. And for that price, you get the hair analysis, you get a 30-page booklet, you get analysis from Dr. Lawrence Wilson, the leading expert in the world. You get 6 months email support. You get free video, free phone calls. You get a Skype chat. You get access to my WhatsApp group where we're all chatting and answering questions. To me, that is not a huge commitment to figure out what's going off with your health. To me, that is by far the best offer and package available for anyone that's suffering from any health problems, in my opinion, in the world. If you can come across something better than that, then, you know, I'd love to hear about it. And don't think that you've got free healthcare from the government, because you haven't, because you're paying taxes, you know, you're paying national insurance. Don't think that's free, you know. And it turns out that when you go to a doctor's, it costs you more because they end up making you sicker in general. You know, they make you more ill, make you more toxic. So don't think that you're getting free healthcare. I mean, I thought I was getting free healthcare when I was in my teenage years. They damaged me so much that I have had to pay the price in the future, you know. So hopefully that's helped you out. But yeah, derealization, from my experience, and I've worked with a lot of people and I've spoken to a lot of people, it's extremely physical in nature. Very, very biochemically induced. All right. Do you think it would be a good idea to dedicate yourself to NBD? Or to nutrition balancing and development, only till everything gets better, and then continue with life, work in college? Yeah, that's a good idea. That's what I did. I started the program about 3 months after I realized the severe state of my health. I realized that probably the only way for me to get through this is to completely dedicate myself to healing. I went to Thailand, and I ended up staying there for a year and dedicating myself to healing for a year. And probably that was definitely one of the reasons that got me to the place where I am now, because I managed to get myself to a warm country that you know, I could do the program. I mean, luckily for me, I ended up living with a nutritional balancing practitioner called Robert Morgan. You can check him out. His website is consciouslivingLTD.com. He's got a nutritional balancing retreat in Thailand, so you can't get any better when it comes to that. I was very lucky. He offered me a job. I think it was destiny on one level, because I was in such a mess. You know, that place was really good for me. So yeah. Any tips on getting rid of persistent calcium shell on the program? Can it take a long time? Yeah, it can take a long time. I think a lot of calcium shell is people that have got calcium shell need to let go of a lot of trauma, and they need to surrender a lot. The body's built up this wall, this withdrawal wall. And I think the meditation, the pushing down exercise is very good for allowing these people to just get in touch with themselves a little bit, and to release a few traumas that are probably holding them back. I think a lot of people skip the pushing down exercise, the pulling down exercise, for various reasons. So I would probably try and do more of that, maybe an hour up to 2 hours a day, just to start breaking down that shell. Thanks, Cody, saying I'm an amazing person. Deja vu, watching this from All Natural Cat. I remember you. I remember you started a program a while back, and I hadn't heard from you for a while. I hope you're doing all right. Can you talk more in detail about the phases of getting out of DP, getting rid of VS and eye floaters? P.S. I have seen your documentary. Thank you so much for it. You didn't discuss the phases. Well, I didn't discuss the phases because everyone, I would imagine, has different phases. You know, the first phase for my healing was I cut out sugar. I went cold turkey on sugar. So the first phase for me was my body trying to figure out a new way to get energy. I was shaking and sweating for weeks, horrendous. It took me about 7 weeks really to get over that. So that was kind of the first phase. The second phase, I personally went into like extreme exhaustion because I'd removed the scaffolding from my body and uncovered this extreme exhaustion that I was totally unaware of, to be honest. I was running around on sympathetic dominance. So that was a second phase. And in these phases, I get enlightened moments where my brain fog would release. And, you know, that's the reason why I carried doing the program. You know, people don't do a program for 8 years, you know, for 2 years if they didn't see improvements. So, you know, I did kind of, my brain started working better. I started dreaming more, you know, as my clarity become better, my visual snow improved. So I was getting all these things. And then the next phase was probably in Thailand. I went to Thailand to heal. I had an EMF phase where I realized I was suffering from extreme EMF sensitivity. And then I went through a massive copper detox after that. That was quite a severe one, and that's the reason why I've done the past couple of videos. And then I ended up moving back to the UK, and I spent a few months actually dealing with the events that went off in Thailand, because in Thailand I started to come out of my body, not come out of my body, started to be released from my prison walls. So for like 7 years I'd been stuck in prison, and then all of a sudden I came out. It happened quite quick, and I was like, I was like, oh my god, my brain's starting to work again. Like, who am I? Like, I had to learn social cues again. I had to learn my personality. All sorts of weird stuff started happening. But yeah, I had a big copper reaction, and I didn't understand copper as well as I did now. And this is the reason why I did a couple of the videos talking about copper elimination. I went home to England after that, spent maybe 3 or 4 months kind of processing that period in Thailand and just figuring out what I'm going to do with my life, realizing that I can't do a full-time job. You know, then I started getting into web design. Yeah, I should probably do a biography one time because there's a lot of complex stuff in there. There's no point me talking about my phases of healing because it's different for everyone, really. So, but maybe one day I'll do like a video biography, just talking about, you know, everything that happened to me and my process and journey, because it was quite a interesting one. Lewis, do you ever ponder metaphysical sciences or extraterrestrials in a serious sense? Yeah, I'm obsessed by metaphysical sciences and extraterrestrials. I don't know really where to start. I used to get visited by aliens when I was a kid in my dreams. I used to get visited by the little grey aliens in my dreams, and I had intense fear. I ended up getting obsessed with extraterrestrials when I was, in my teens, in my early 20s, learned everything, learned a lot about Project Blue Book, learned a lot about all the star systems in the universe, learned a lot about the Pleiades, learned a lot about things like MUFON, You know, Stephen Greer does a lot of good stuff. Roswell. I personally believe that I probably had some sort of encounter with extraterrestrials, either in a previous life or something's happened. 100%. Sorry if I'm kind of freaking people out now. This is just a personal thing, you know what I mean? I'm just for whatever reason, I'm really interested in that sort of stuff. I was watching a documentary on it last night about some people that apparently got abducted. I just find it really interesting. You know, I could speak about this stuff all day long. If you want to call me up, you know, I don't want to turn this live chat into some woo weird ass whatever, because you know this is not what it's about. Feel free to give me a call one time. I think you've got my number. We can chat about, you know, whatever you want. Metaphysical, I'm a very spiritual person. My intuition is becoming really, really strong now. I'm starting to get various intuitive signs that are more than what I've talked about on the past. If you're interested in my esoteric sort of stuff that's been going off for the past few years, then I do have a YouTube video entitled I can't remember what it's called. I think it's something like the esoteric abilities I have gained while doing a nutritional balancing program. You know, that talks about the more esoteric stuff. But yeah, I'm very, very much interested in the metaphysical sciences and extraterrestrials. It's a hobby of mine, I suppose. On sleep, I wake up at the same time every day. If I sleep in the following night, I fall asleep later and later. I struggle to sleep early enough to get 9 hours unless I do intense exercise. I think a good thing is try and watch my videos on insomnia and sleep difficulties. One good thing to reset your circadian rhythm is to go out in nature for a week. Just spend a week in nature, and that tends to reset your clock. Also, I would definitely look into whether you're EMF sensitive, because that could be a problem. You know, make sure you're winding down at night. A lot of people are on the phones, they're on the computers, and it kind of stimulates them too much. You know, if you are interested in doing a nutritional balance program, get in touch with me, because that question could be due to a lot of different things. If you was a client of mine, I would be able to go into things much specifically with you and actually figure out, hone in on what the issue probably is. But there's many different factors involved, really, with not sleeping. More exercise, more sleep versus less exercise, less sleep. Best thing to do if you want to sleep at night is to do some walking in the daytime. You know, do some walking, go on a big hike. You know, if you can do that, and that'll put you to sleep. Another thing is do a little bit of gardening. That'll put you to sleep. But again, watch my videos on insomnia and sleep difficulties, because it's a big subject. That's huge. So many things can put you off sleep. I don't remember subscribing to this channel. Does this guy eat raw meat? Definitely not. Any research article recommended to give to my Lyme doctor for him to explain about the program? I think if you look on Dr. Wilson's website, he has a lot of references to hair mineral analysis. If you type in hair mineral analysis references, but you know, a lot of doctors just don't understand the stuff that we do in nutritional balancing. It's just far beyond their capability. I know that sounds weird, but a lot of doctors are stuck in a certain ideology. They've been given licensing, they've been to medical school for 5 years where they just talk about drugs and they don't talk about nutrition. You know, they just want to heal people quick, but in reality, they're masking symptoms and not getting to the root cause. If you're going to your local GP to me, that's a big red flag, because I know that my local GP is drug pushing, and that is just total nonsense a lot of the time for me. I'm not saying the medical industry is bad. I'm not saying drugs are necessarily bad. At times, they do save people's lives. If you're going to talk about Lyme, I suppose a Lyme doctor probably more aware of nutrition and all that sort of stuff. So I would maybe print off a couple of articles on copper toxicity, for example, because that has a lot to do with Lyme disease. That might help. Have you tried high meat for healing the gut? No, we don't recommend high meat. This is the person that asked me whether I eat raw meat. No, it's a difficult question to answer. I think if you haven't seen this channel before, I don't know where you've got the link from or whatever, then the best thing to do is to watch some videos on this channel, because it's too much of a big question. If you don't know who I am or what we do, it's best to just look at some videos in the channel. I do have a video on meat eating, so if you type in on our channel eating meat, then if you want to watch that video, if you are quite interested in meat and raw meat and all that sort of stuff, then I talk about meat a lot in that video, so check that out. That would be good. Thanks for answering my question. You're welcome. The thing is that it's definitely trauma anxiety related for me, and also I consider myself much healthier than the average person. I literally haven't had flu or anything in years, no fatigue, no stomach issues, so that makes me question if the whole thing for me. I hope that makes sense. I mean, it's more time and effort commitment. I'm going to the gym 5 times a week, lifting heavy. I probably have to stop that and restrict my diet. All right. First thing that I want to say is that I appeared healthy when I was younger. Before I started the program, I could run. I could exercise for 10 hours. I looked fine. And I would be very suspicious of anyone who says that they haven't got sick in a long time. The reason being is that people that are healthy actually tend to get sick more often. I know that's weird. The reason being is that the healthier people have a better response to germs. There's a lot of germs out there today and a lot of infections. The healthier people tend to get ill, but it's very quick. They burn it out the system. If you haven't been ill for a long time and you've got derealization, your body is probably hiding and keeping dormant infections, and it can do that within the body. If you was to start a nutritional balancing program, them infections that are hidden in your body will start to burn out. So I personally believe that you're probably a lot sicker than you think. Also, and this is very, very important to realize, trauma manifests physically as a toxin. Now, this is a difficult one to wrap your head around, because this is it's beyond what most people can understand. We're talking esoterical, metaphysical, quantum physics sort of stuff. If you have a trauma and it stuck in the mind, for the mind to deal with it, it basically surrounds it with a toxin. It could be copper, could be arsenic, could be mercury. So actually, in order to release that trauma, you've got to do something like the nutritional balancing program, which will give the body all the nutrition it needs to deal with the trauma, and it'll release that copper that's been holding on to that trauma. When the copper's released, the trauma comes out in all its glory. So that's something that not many people are aware of. So seriously, I can guarantee you now that you are probably not in as good a health as what you think. And I definitely thought I was much healthier than what I was. I only say I was extremely sick now because I've realized how long it took me to heal. I was in an absolute mess at the time. At the time, I knew there was something wrong. Clearly, I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't realize the extent of the damage I'd done to myself, because the body is extremely good at just hiding everything. It's amazing at hiding everything. So I would really, really consider what you think about your own body. 2 minutes. Going a bit slow here. Hold on. Hey, Lewis. Let me see how many comments we've got here. That's quite a lot. Hey, Lewis, do you know anything about taking systemic high-quality enzymes between meals to add to the healing of illness? Yeah, we recommend GB3. GB3 does the same thing. You can take a high dosage of GB3 up to 333 if you want to. So yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, we use GB3. It's the same. Use it for cancer. A lot of people use Protocell Cantron. We use GB3. It's the same thing. Yeah, we don't use the plant-based ones. We don't find them to be very powerful. But GB3 is doing the exact same as what you are talking about here. High dosage, powerful systemic enzymes that do all sorts of stuff, including killing things like trophoblasts, cancer cells, and yeah, it's used a lot in cancer therapy. You can actually, they use Cantron and Protocell quite a lot, but you can use like if you got cancer, you can use like high dose GB3 and you can do the same thing. So yeah, if you're doing a nutrition balancing program, increase your GB3. Is all the Christian crowd believing in extraterrestrial powers? Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of Christians, whenever you talk about anything metaphysical or extraterrestrial or whatever, a lot of Christians believe that we're the only people in the universe. Whenever you talk about anything metaphysical, generally Christians tend to attribute that to like the devil and stuff. So, it's there's a big pool of people out there, and my Christian friends do speak about metaphysical things and extraterrestrials and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, everyone thinks differently in various communities, including Christianity. Hi, Lewis, can you tell me what were your symptoms for EMF sensitivity? Also, could glyphosate be a problem with increase of non-organic veg/carrot juice on the program? Cheers. Yep, glyphosate can definitely be a problem. I know it gets sprayed. That's why we try and recommend organic. If you can't find organic, then fresh is going to be better than junk food. So it's one of the things you can't get away from. Generally, if you wash your vegetables well under some water, and maybe if you ozonate the water, you can actually get a lot of these pesticides and herbicides and all these things that they spray on vegetables off quite well, actually. So definitely try and wash your vegetables as much as possible. EMF symptoms was tingling skin, burning skin, red rashes, headaches, severe insomnia, aching in my body, candida overgrowth was probably the main ones for me. Cool. I have started having sleep paralysis when I was about a year into nutritional balancing, including an encounter with a golden electric beam. Felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. Probably having a spiritual entity release. Most people have various nasty entities attached to them. In nutrition balancing, we call them the rogues. In Christianity, you would call it devilish spirits. And these spirits are real. They live on sick environments. And when you're doing a nutrition balancing program, when they're released from the body, there's a kind of paralysis that you can go through, and it kind of is released. The golden electric being, I would be suspicious about that. It's probably an entity release. Renomide, for some reason, is more, gets entities off me, got entities off me quite powerfully. That's probably what you're going through. Do you think at one point that you will use psychedelics for spiritual purpose? I've used psychedelics in the past for spiritual things. Probably, I don't know, the risk is too high. I mean, why risk having a psychedelic experience that could potentially ruin my brain by, because I get it all the time from clients, they've done ayahuasca or they've done smoked up joint or they've done this or they've done that, and I don't know what it does, but it can just trigger some switch in the brain that just makes the, you know, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland just fire off just signals, random signals, and to get that back together again is so difficult. I also hear about people that just their energy's moved up so much that it just blasts the head off, and it just wires them out too much. I understand the benefits of psychedelic experiences. Don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of psychedelic experiences in the past. You know, magic mushrooms, ketamine. I smoked marijuana. I've done all the drugs, you know, under the sun. Acid, but it's not worth the risk anymore, in my opinion. However, you know, they definitely are interesting, 100%. And probably you probably get more from psychedelics if your body's in a good state of health, in a good level of health. You know, so probably now if I was to take a psychedelic, my body would probably react to it fairly well. But I don't want to take a risk because there's too many bad stories. And at the same time, you know, the more I do the program, the more my feet is stuck on the ground, and people don't realize to be a very spiritually oriented person, to have your feet firmly on earth is very, very healthy, very, very good. It allows you to have a foundation for your spirituality. A lot of people are spiritual, but they're super yin and spaced out, and they just want to get off earth basically and move to a different planet. You know, and what I did find when I did take psychedelics in the past is it kind of spaces me out too much for quite a while afterwards, a few days sometimes, and to me, it's not a nice feeling. It's too yin, as we were saying, nutritional balancing. Isn't healing at the basic level not just about getting our redox potential up? Is that, do you mean detox? Yeah, I need a new computer, man. This is so slow. Now, I don't know much about this really, so I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Come on, this is super slow. I do know that nutritional balancing helps repair the mitochondria, but I'm not that well up on the redox potential, so I'd have to read up on that. I know many people have healed from EHS in just 3 days going to Mexico by recharging their mitochondria because the magnetic field is so high at the Yucatan Peninsula. If you know people that have healed EHS in 3 days, please can I have their details, because I want to genuinely want to chat to these people, because you know, I'm not a blind person that just only follows nutritional balancing, but if people make you know things like that, then I want to speak to them myself. I want to do tests on them myself, and I want to do research myself. That's all I can say really to that question. So yeah, if you really, really want to help the community and you really want to help the EMF community, then please let's do some collaboration with these guys, because I wanna see whether this is actually real or not. But yeah, I don't know whether that is true or not. Why does everyone need to take vitamin D? Hold on. Why does everyone need to take vitamin D on the program when it lowers potassium? It doesn't lower potassium. I don't know where you've got that information from. Everyone needs to take vitamin D these days because the sun isn't releasing enough rays for us to convert vitamin D properly. So we all need to be taking extra vitamin D. You get plenty of vitamin D from sardines, and we also recommend vitamin D. Nutritional Balancing has been going for 40 years. I see hundreds of hair tests, and every single person gets recommended vitamin D, and they eat sardines, and I have not seen it reduce potassium. So from my evidence, that's a false claim, unfortunately. So why don't you use plant-based enzymes when holistic doctors like Gerson used plant-based enzymes and also beef liver enzymes? Why not both? Well, you know, I think it's important to realize that the Gerson method isn't working as well these days because the program he recommended is a little bit yin, and the plant-based enzymes tend to be a little bit yin too. The GB3 enzymes, the oxbile enzymes, they tend to be much more yang in nature. This is one of the reasons why the Gerson method is not working as well in 2018, 2019, because we live in such a yin environment these days that the method that he did is a little bit too yin for people, and it's just not working. We find that if you want to heal cancer these days, you've got to switch to a more yang enzyme, and that's just the evidence that Dr. Wilson's found. Obviously, I didn't create the program, so it's not really for me to turn around and say why aren't we using plant-based enzymes, because I see GB3 and it works absolutely fine. It works great. But to answer your question, that would probably be the reason why. Hi, Lewis. Thank you for your help. I deal with demonic beings on a regular basis. Had people getting choked while sleeping. I guess the name of Jesus gets rid of them all the time. Be their people. Yeah, it's a good thing to do. You know, if you ever got some demonic entity or some bad energy or some bad spirit around you, or if you get any sort of guidance or anything like that, if you say, "Is this coming from Jesus Christ? Is this coming from the one and only Jesus Christ? Is this coming from the one and only God? You know, is this coming from the radiant one? Is this coming from the one creator?" That actually puts a stop to things in general. It's not fail safe. It's not fail proof, sorry. But in general, if you say stuff like that, these entities will stop. It holds a certain power. It's one of the reasons why reading the Bible is a good book to read. I'm not saying it's perfect, you know, it's got translation errors, etc. But it holds power. It holds power. No, the pushing down exercise is bringing power into the body. Being a developed individual is having power. You know, eating highly developed foods is ingesting power. Things have power. The word Jesus Christ and God, it holds power. And saying that cuts through a lot of negativity, a lot of negative entities, etc. So that's a very wise thing to do. I definitely had a parasitical entity, and boy, was it pissed about my healing. Would have episodes, choke, slap me. Yeah, it's not nice. I had a clown entity. I had a black weird entity. I've had sleep paralysis a few times. It's not a nice feeling to go through. You know, again, just in the name of Jesus Christ, leave me alone. In the name of Almighty God, please remove yourself from my body. Helps quite a lot. Wear a cross as well. Wear a cross around your neck also helps too. Wear light colours. I'm not doing a good example today, but wear light colours. Wear whites. Wear creams. You know, indigos, pinks. It detracts dark entities. But yeah, the nutrition balancing is obviously the best way of getting rid of them. How did you figure out you were clear and done with 4 lows? I got a hair analysis test, if that's what you mean in your life. How did you figure out? How do you personally figure out when you were clear and done with 4 lows in your personal life? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you do a 4 lows program, after a while, I came out of 4 lows. I did go into 4 lows not too long ago, actually, because sometimes when you're in your late 20s, you got to go into 4 lows to heal some parental relationships from your past. So again, I had to deal with all that sort of stuff, and then that got me out of 4 lows. But I don't know, like that's the reason. I don't know. I don't quite understand the question, but you know, doing regular hair analysis tests is the way to figure out whether you're in 4 lows or not. Generally, if you're in 4 lows and you come out of 4 lows, you start getting depressed because your program needs changing. So that's an interesting thing for people to realize. Can a chi machine be used during the recovery, especially if I can't exercise? Yeah, 100%. Chi machine is definitely recommended. By the way, the questions are nearly finished. So if you have got a question, then say it now. Before we finish. Yeah, Dr. Jack Cruz. I've heard about the guy. He seems to be pretty on it. He seems to be pretty good. You know. Yeah, I do know about him. I think he's a cool guy. I don't know too much about everything, but I mean, for me, like when I test for EHS sensitive individuals, they all have like extreme copper toxicity. They all have like a low NAK. They all have like calcium shells. So for that to get fixed in 3 days, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I can understand them going to a different area and the symptoms disappearing after 3 days, but total like improvement of health in 3 days is, and I mean, I wouldn't personally like to heal everything in 3 days because you wouldn't learn much. I mean, what would you learn? You know, you wouldn't have gone on a journey of healing, a natural progression. I don't know. It doesn't seem too right to me. It doesn't add up. But you know, I'm definitely open to things like that. I would love to speak to these people 100%. I've tried saying the Lord's Prayer, casting out Jesus. It hasn't worked so far. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if the body's sick still, which it probably is, then they're gonna feed on that for a while. It doesn't matter how much you talk about Jesus Christ; they'll just stick in there. Usually, it's when they're being released and they're trying to hold on. You can say, "In the name of Jesus Christ, leave," you know, and generally they'll get out of there. But you've got to heal the body. I found to a decent level for these to move off. You know, even if you say this sort of stuff. Hi Lewis, I get worn out during the pushing down exercise. I will be pushing down forcefully and then feel like I can't push down and need to rest for a couple of seconds. Why is that? It's because it's an intense exercise. You've got to put a lot of effort into it. It's a lot of mental it's a lot of mental pushing, and it is difficult to do. So just have a little rest and get back to it if you need to do. But that's normal. I'm hesitant about the nutritional balancing program. I'm not sure why I've reacted pretty gnarly to kelp. Well, kelp, a lot of people react to kelp in the beginning. Kelp is powerful. I was extremely sensitive to kelp. It kept me up. It kelped me up for days. It kept me up for days. You've got to. Some people are incredibly sensitive to supplements, and that's just how it is. Some people have to skip kelp for a little bit until they get the body to a level where they can handle it. It seems to me like you're really ill, and you get harsh healing reactions with nutritional balancing. You should not go into nutritional balancing thinking that it's just going to be a downhill slide to health and happiness. That is not the case, and it will stumble people massively. If you are ill, you will have to experience healing reactions. It is the only way to heal. And think of it from a logical perspective. If you've got toxins within the body, they're going to have to come out at some point. And when they're running around the bloodstream, you're going to get healing reactions. If you want to speak to anyone about sensitivities and healing reactions, speak to me. I mean, I went through it all. Sensitive to all the supplements in an extreme level, had extreme healing reactions, had extreme esoteric, cathartic, cathartic reactions. I had it all. So don't be put off by the program. You need to speak to your practitioner about it just to calm everything down. Generally, I was so sensitive to Megapan that I had to literally scrape little bits of Megapan onto my food in order for my body to get used to it. I mean, this is how ill people are these days. It's absolutely unbelievable. I don't know. The talk about Jesus Christ is so religion centric to me. I'm not saying that there is a there is certain religions, correct, but yeah, why not Moses, Abraham, Muhammad if we go with that logic? I mean, that's a huge philosophical question, and I don't want to go into it in this video because it's too big of a subject, and you don't want to be stepping on people's toes unnecessarily. In general, we find that Christianity is a very safe path to follow. You don't have to be a Christian to do nutritional balancing. You don't necessarily have to believe in Jesus Christ or God. I found it's helped me personally over the years, and that's why I talk about it, because it's helped me, and therefore it's going to help others. I live in a Western world. I live in Great Britain, where it's predominantly Christian-based country, so I'm exposed to that. Maybe if I lived in Thailand or somewhere Asian, then I would speak a lot more about Buddhism and whatnot. But I only can tell you what's worked for me. Very, very big question about religion. I don't recommend the other religions for various different reasons, which I'm not going to go into. But yeah, that's basically it. I had the worst time in a program for 3 years, and now I'm doing great. Some people have got to push through. You've got to push through, and like this person, she had a struggle for 3 years. I didn't have a great 3 years too. I mean, it was pretty hellish for me for 3 years. That's not for everyone. I was very, very, very ill. Looking back now, my body was in a complete mess. But yeah, definitely the first 2 years was a struggle. After the first 2 years, things started to improve. But that's because people are just so toxic these days that it just takes a lot of time, unfortunately, to get rid of it. Yeah, the same person had panic attacks and insomnia. I'm just going to put this heater on a little bit. You're probably going to hear a noise, but the temperature's dropping outside. I had panic attacks, insomnia. It was a living hell. Lewis, how many clients do you have? I have quite a few, in the hundreds. Lewis, what changes are clients having to their bodies after years on the program? What's the most surprising, radical thing you've heard? I don't know. I mean, it depends on the person. It's hard to say. People just get healthier and happier. I mean, that's the best thing for me to see is not necessarily the physical stuff, like, just seeing people happy and uplifted and just joyous. Like, to me, that's the best radical thing and radical change ever. I've seen people who've had like drug poisoning where they've basically been severely brain damaged and poisoned, where like half of the right side, half the body is just in paralysis, and after 3 or 4 years, this person's like walking and moving around and stuff. I mean, that was a huge thing for me to see. I've seen people with extreme bipolar who are normal people now because they balanced out the copper levels. I've seen kids with Down syndrome who, the Down syndrome children have, you can usually tell with facial features and stuff. This particular child's grades went from like, E to D, C, and the facial structure started to change. Like the facial structure from Down syndrome started to change. But to me, it doesn't matter how well you improve physically. If you don't improve mentally, then what's life all about? And, seeing the changes in people's mental, seeing the changes in people's spiritual enlightenment for me just makes me super happy. When people turn around and tell me that they laugh more and they're just having better relationships with the family and the children. To me, that's the most radical thing, and it's surprising on many levels because you see people that are in complete and utter messes that go from bedridden to walking around and getting jobs and being happy individual, part of a strong pillar of the community. So that's probably it, really. So yeah, we're pretty much done now. If anyone's got any questions, um, just add it in and I'll try to answer it dead quick. All right, cool. Well, that's everything, guys. Getting late here in England anyway, so I'm gonna have to shoot. If you like this, then please tune in for the next one. I'll be sending everyone an email. Thanks for watching, guys. If you do want to start a nutritional balancing program with me, please email lewis@deephealingspace.com. If you want to work with Luke, who's in America, just email luke@deephealingspace.com. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And I will see you all very soon.